Hello, my friends. Welcome back to my channel. My name is David, and today we have something a little different. A little bit of a mashup of a bunch of different things, so it's likely going to lead to a lengthy video. I'm going to try my best to avoid making it obscenely long, but I will begin with the reasons for celebration. One of the things is I recently hit 300 subscribers, and I noticed on BookTube that people like to do fun things when they hit certain milestones along the way. And, I don't care so much about subscriber count, but I did want to offer some sort of a giveaway. And this seems like as good of a reason to choose to do that as any, because I recently finished Idols of the King by Tennyson, loved it, decided, this is kind of a beat up reading copy that I'd love to pass on to somebody, replace it with a newer, sturdier, long lasting copy for my library at some point in time. And so that's the first announcement here is I'm going to be doing a giveaway. And the primary thing, I want to give this away. The other thing that will for sure be going is going to be a signed copy of my novella. This is from, I have a couple different copies still lying around from the first time it was published by Small Press. So I'll be sending this off along with Idols of the King and potentially some other books. What other books, you might ask? Well, there's a good number, and I'll work with whoever the winner ends up being. But some potential winners could be English romantic poetry, an anthology, which is a volume that I started to read, enjoyed, got through all the Blake poems, and then stopped because the much longer and more complete Major English Romantic Poets volume showed up. And so rather than chipping away at the few in here and then rereading in there, I finished up the few Blake that were left, since Blake isn't in that volume, and decided to, well, let's pass this one along, potentially. Uh, Same goes with, I've got this nice Penguin Classics copy of Eagle Saga. I happen to have that same saga in my Sagas of the Icelanders that I now have, so I no longer need that. I'd be happy to pass along a book that I just finished. I'll be talking about this here shortly, SPQR by Mary Beard, and among others. So I'll whoever ends up being the winner, I'll give them the full list of potential books that they can choose from, and they can kind of prioritize what they want. I'll try to make a nice little package for them and send it off their way. And who knows, the longer that they're willing to delay gratitude, the more books that might end up on the list for them to choose from. As I'm working my way through books, I'm making the decisions at this point in time. When I finish a book, is this one I want to keep around for a potential reread or to reference in the future? If the answer to that is no, away it goes, which is a good way of having a healthy rotation through the library. So, to enter, all you need to do is let me know down below that you are in, and in a couple weeks, I'll spin the wheel, and we will have a winner, and I will send some books out to them. So yeah, that's the big news right there. But that's not all I'm going to talk about. So let's buckle in. There's a lot I want to cover. So let's start with a couple of books that I finished in October since my last Friday reads, because I've missed two of them. 2 weeks ago because it was a busy weekend for a game convention that was in town, and just life kept going, and so I decided, you know what, I'll push it back. And then this last week, work just beat the crap out of me, and so I needed to recover. Instead, that's why the part 4 of my Tennyson reading wasn't until yesterday, because I just didn't have time, and I'm still behind on my teaching grading stuff. Trying to chip my way through that. I've got till the end of the day to get that done, and I'm in a good spot to get to the end of it without too much stress remaining. But I'm hoping to get there. But I wanted to still take the time to make this video. So I showed this already, but Idols of the King by Tennyson is one of the ones I finished since the last time. I have a review up for it already because I wanted to get it in for October. I love it. This is great. It's not my favorite Arthurian retelling by any means. I don't think it ever will be, but it will always be one that I'm happy to go back and reread and enjoy. And it will get a permanent place on my Arthurian shelf, just in a nicer volume. The draw on this particular volume is at the end. It's got a couple of extras in there. If you watch my review, I'll talk about them. And it's a good one. And I'd love to pass it along to somebody that would enjoy it. Let's talk about SPQR. I did this as a buddy read with Very Literary Carrie, Mark Booktype from Elvis, Vin from Revenant Reads was in there, and I think Arion from Book Zealots was in there. And 3 of the 5 of us really, really enjoyed this. 2 of us were not so thrilled, and I fell into that camp of 2. The first half was okay. I didn't dislike it in the first half, and it went through a lot of the political dynamics and the battles and all that really interesting stuff. And then it turned a corner, and Mary Beard started interjecting a lot more of her biases and opinions, and it felt like we were getting bludgeoned at times with her own lens that she's viewing back to Roman history, which of course, that's her prerogative, and it's something that is a voice that is out there. I'm by no means new to the history of Rome, but I'm also by no means any way, shape, or form of an expert. I'm closer to the newbie realm than any sort of expertise. And while I don't doubt that a lot of the information that she shares in here is really, really good and solid, at some point in time in here, I started getting to the point where I could equate her opinion on it as those in charge, bad, like corrupt, evil, wealthy, the 1%, they crap on everything. Caesar, even worse. Hitler level of just the worst scum of the earth. He should not be remembered fondly in any way, shape, or form. And then the common person, severely oppressed, women silenced and raped, children abandoned in rubbish heaps. You could just walk out in the street and find a newborn child in a rubbish heap. So, why would anybody ever need to adopt anything? You could just walk outside and pick up kids and bring them back home. And it just started to really grate on me. The more and more her viewpoint seemed to press through. And I got the feel that she's not a big fan of Romans as a whole, which I think has been confirmed in the Voxer chat. I kind of, when I realized that everybody was enjoying this book and I was going to be the sole downcast in there until Arion caught up a little bit, I kind of just said, you know what, I don't want to be the one that brings it down for everybody else. But I did not enjoy this at the end. I thought it was good in the first half, and if it had stopped there, it would have been probably a 4-star read. I didn't even finish the last 2 chapters. I just couldn't take any more. So I will happily send this along if you are interested, and if you don't think it'll bother you or whatever, happy to pass it. The other one I just recently finished is a very small volume. This is T.S. Eliot, Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats. So it's poems about cats. This is one I'm not passing along. This was a reread for me, and it's one I'm probably going to reread again. But if somebody is interested, I'd be happy to pass it along and regain it at some point in time in the future. It's good. I enjoy it. I'm not a huge cat person. My wife is a big cat person. But you don't need to be one to enjoy the poetry in here. But if you are a cat lover, you'll probably enjoy it even more. Very, very solid. And it reminded me of what I enjoy about T.S. Eliot as a poet. So let's talk about the November reads I have coming up, because I'm not doing a TBR videos anymore. But I do have some pre-committed buddy reads, and I've mentioned these a couple times already, but I want to, as we're rolling into November, kind of reiterate what they are and announce 2 new things. Because I'm not doing TBRs, I am doing these. So we'll start with things that you know. So I'm going to be buddy reading Mad Ship by Robin Hobb. This is book 2 in the Live Ship Traders. Sorry about that. Absolutely loved book 1. 5-star read for me. Buddy reading it with Rachel is reading in Beth Ann, and I'm looking forward to starting this. It's going to take at least the whole month. It darn near took the whole month with me doing audio. But when we were buddy reading the first book, it was likely going to be a 2-month until Rachel got a really big push. So the next buddy read with John from Hey Y'all Listen Up. I'm going to be reading Alexandrian War, African War, and Spanish War out of my landmark Julius Caesar. Hoping to wrap up Civil War today. I'll be very close. If I'm not finished with it, I'll finish it at the very, very beginning of November, but I'm enjoying this. The landmark edition is wonderful. It's got maps and lots of footnotes. If I wasn't doing a buddy read, I'd probably take even more time and read them in greater depth. But as my first pass through, I'm not as focused on that as I am on just reading the writing, and I'm enjoying his writing. Obviously, just as biased in his own favor as Mary Beard is against him in her own writing today. And then out of this volume, I've got 2 different buddy reads that are going on. Tori from Hufflepuff Discovery and I are going to be reading The Island of Dr. Moreau. We're going to be reading in the very first week of November, trying to get through about 20-25 pages a day to clip through that in a week. And then I'm buddy reading War of the Worlds, which that one for sure is a reread for me. I think I've read Dr. Moreau before, but I'm not 100% sure. But I have read War of the Worlds, and I'm buddy reading that with Alicia. Reads and Rambles, I think it is, something like that. I'll have her channel and all these other buddy readers down below. But we'll be reading War of the Worlds, hopefully not week 1. Hopefully we can pick a different point in time in the month to give me a little flexibility between Mad Ship and the others. But if not, that's okay. I'll figure it out. So the 2 new things that I'm going to announce, I'm teaming up with 2 different booktubers to do 2 different monthly book club. Yes. and I'm excited about it. I reached out to both of them yesterday and heard back with positive reactions from both of them. And so this is my chance to announce both of these formally. The first is a book club that I'm doing with none other than the Shelley Swearingen. Yes, that one, the outfit of the day vlog for a tag, Shelley Swearingen. She just, she's a delight. If you're not a subscriber to her channel, please go subscribe to her. She's very, very fun, a great person to talk to. And we were already planning on reading a couple of books together in the coming months. And so I posited that why don't we just make this a monthly thing and pencil in something into November. Then we've already got December, January, February that we've already planned, and we'll just try making this a monthly thing. And so she picked a book that she has on her 1001 children's books that she needs to read, one that she's never read that she has on her shelf. And as soon as she suggested it, I knew instantly that yes, the answer to this one is yes. And it's Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, which will be a reread for me. I've read this several times and enjoy it every single time. I'm due for a reread, not only because of I'm going to read every Ray Bradbury book. Yes, I'm still planning to do that, just at my own pace. I'm currently working my way through Graveyard for Lunatics and enjoying that one. And I'm very, very much looking forward to a reread of Fahrenheit 451. And so we'll have an announcement middle of each month where we'll announce what our next read is going to be for the following month. So if you want to join along and read that book, you'll have some time to pick it up, a copy if you don't have one, and be prepared for it. Now, I'm looking towards what Steve Donahue and Matthew at Mayberry Book Club kind of do, and then Steve Donahue and Michael K. Vaughan for their Epic Comic Book Wednesdays, and see that they have these collaborations and they make weekly videos where they do something for each of their kind of team ups there. And I don't know that I want to do a weekly video, and I said as much to both Shelley and to my other book club person that I'll be talking about in a minute. But I definitely want to do one to announce ahead of the month, and then one to wrap up at the end, and maybe one around mid-month if we're reading it across the entire month to kind of give the halfway point thoughts. That won't be happening this month because Fahrenheit 451 is a relatively short one, and I believe Shelley said that she's looking to want to start it around the middle of November, which is great because then I'll hopefully be able to knock out some of these other things ahead of it. But I'm excited for that, and I'm excited for December, January, February, knowing what those books already are going to be, and being able to announce those as the time gets right for those. The other book club that I'm going to be teaming up with a fantastic person on BookTube who deserves all of the subscribers. His name is Aaron. Not sure how to pronounce his last name, so I'm not going to try to, but I'll have him linked down below. And he has a wonderful channel. He started right around the same time I did, and I got to thinking with my recent poetry kick. When I think poetry on BookTube, he is the one that comes to mind first and foremost. He talks about and reads and enjoys poetry more than anybody that I know of in terms of how often it gets mentioned. And so I suggested that we do a monthly poetry collection or book or complete works or whatever, a portion of a complete works, and that we would figure it out month to month and read through something together and kind of discuss them as we go. And, this will lead into most likely some Poetry Thursdays getting featured from some of these poems. and of course, this is going to be like we don't have a name for this one. Shelly and I have come up with I think we're going to do the Eclectic Book Club for our books, because I mean they kind of jump around from different things that we're going to be reading and discussing together. But Aaron and I, we haven't gotten as far as coming up with even what we're going to read first. But he did chime back and said yes, he's on board. He have some kind of a decision in the morning, and I'm looking forward to what that is. But I didn't want to wait making this video to hear back on that. But as soon as I know, I'll make sure to mention it in my next video, that so that you can be prepared too, if you want to join us on reading some poetry. And it may end up being that he'll just join me in reading Life on Mars if he can't think of anything different, which by no means is an obligation there, because I'm going to read Life on Mars either way, because I'm already enjoying it, even though I'm trying not to get too far into it before we hit November. And I wanted to finish that T.S. Eliot cat poem book. So, Dead Poet Society with Aaron, and I'm excited about that. And I'm trying to, going forward, limit my reads, my commitments each month to those 2 book clubs, and then one more that I'll just open up to everybody. And so in December, the one that I'm opening up, of course, is The Hobbit. And my big Lord of the Rings read along, January through June, which will be a lot of fun. So the last thing I want to talk about is I'm ready to announce my next 5. That's right. I've started the other 5. I've finished some of them. I forgot to talk about 2 other books, but I'm just going to leave that for next week, because one of them is on that list. The other one is an ebook that I was reading for NetGalley. So my next 5. So one that I'm currently reading is book 2 for this series. So I'm putting The Last Emperox by John Scalzi, book 3, in that next 5 to convince myself that I am not going to let this series just linger. I am going to finish it this year and check one series off the list. Okay. Next is one of the Mooks and Gripes selections that I had. I, at the end of it, had 5 that I was going to commit to reading, 1 on each of my next 5 lists that I do. So I'm going to do Piers the Plowman by William Langland. So this is 14th century. It is not in poetic verse or anything like that. Even though this is a poet, it is very much, at least translated in this translation, into prose. But I'm looking forward to it, or at least it looks like it's in prose. So pairing with that, my nonfiction pick here that I'm going to go with is going to be Chaucer and his contemporaries. Some of you might have seen me haul this on my big indie bookstore tour. It's got essays on medieval literature and thought, and the 3 big literary figures it talks about are Chaucer, the Gawain poet, and Langland. So I figured this makes sense to read Piers Plowman and then jump into this, and I'll be excited to do so. It's 300-ish pages, but I think it'll be a lot of fun. Book 4 on here is for New Worlds November. So I've got an ace double here. So on one side I have Crown of Infinity by John F. Fawcett. And on the other side, for Sword and Sorcery November, we have The Prism by Emil Vitaja. So I thought that would be an interesting one to grab off the shelf and to pull out an ace double for those two little events, to where all you have to do is read one thing to join along. Obviously, with the HD Wells, I'll already be very much in the New Worlds November as well as the Scalzi. But I figured that would be a fun little one to put in there. And so now I'm going to open up the little wheel to spin the wheel and find out what my subscriber pick for the last book is. As a reminder, I had in my previous next 5 video the opportunity for folks to give me recommendations of books to read, and that I would be reading them one every 5. And I'm excited to do that. They have so far been, I enjoyed my first subscriber pick that was done before the 5s. And then the last one I did was City of Brass, which I stopped. It got too YA for me. When it got to the point where the main character is going to be hooking up with this Jin, who all throughout the book it talks about how he's burned her to the touch, and then all of a sudden they have a moment and she touches his chin and he looks at her. I'm just like, okay, I'm done. I'm checking out. You have just broken everything that you've set up at this point in time. They can't have a physical interaction because he would burn her skin. And now she just casually was touching his chin, and he stops and looks at her, and it's not doing anything. No, I'm done. I was already leaning that way. I'm getting too old, maybe. YA is just not working for me as much. I enjoy what it was setting up, and I enjoyed some of what it was doing, but there was just too much YA in there that was driving me nuts. So, sorry to whoever suggested that one. A year ago, I probably would have really, really enjoyed that book. So our book here is Mortal Engines by Philip Reeve. There we go. So that will be the 5th and final book that I put onto this list. So the very last thing, I figured this would be about half an hour with everything I wanted to talk about. The books and the book clubs and what I've read and what I want to give away for my 300 subscribers. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was something that I got this last week from my grandma, of all people. And she's made me some fun, crafty things before. She had me stop by and she gave me this, which is a junk journal. So it is just full of fun items, pages, bookmarks. It's got little postcards in here. It's got things that you can write on. It's got little inserts in here, and she made a medieval themed one for me. It's got pages out of books. So it's got poetry in here, and I think it's absolutely wonderful. I adore this. So if you don't know what a junk journal is, it has a letter here from the bookmaker, and I'm going to just read it to you so you can get an idea of what a junk journal is. That will lead into what I'm going to end this with. It says, "Dear friend, you have either purchased or been gifted with this book, but now that you have it, you might be wondering how to use it. Your book may be an altered book where an old book, either falling apart, saved from the trash, or found in a thrift store, has been used to create something new. I might have altered the construction of the book by adding, subtracting pages, and building flip-outs and flip-ups. I might have used paint, or ink, or fabric, or lace to dress it up. I might have doodled along the edges. I may have made a little collage in the corner of a page. I probably created a new cover, but sometimes, with an old book, I leave the covers alone. Maybe your book is a wholly new creation filled with papers I have dyed myself with plants from my garden and tea-dyed paper to give it that wonderful old world look. Your book might be nearly naked with few embellishments so you can fill the pages with words and art of your own. Or your book might be heavily embellished with vintage graphics and pieces of fabric and lace. There might be altered envelopes filled with journaling cards or hidden paper clips to hold a favorite quote. You may find pages from old books that have been used to make new pages in your book. Perhaps I have sprinkled dried flowers throughout your book and added a tassel or beads to the spine. Pockets and tuck spots might be filled with unique ephemera, journaling cards, little notebooks, or interesting photographs. And yes, it has all of those little ephemera, journaling cards, photographs, not photographs, but like images. Turning each page should be an adventure, a treasure hunt, a surprise, and hopefully bring a smile to your face, which it did. As you turn the pages, please remember you cannot ruin this book. You can only make it more yours by using it. Add photos or quotes, recipes, or remembrances. Doodle or draw. Use it as a diary, a to-do list, a planner. It would make a perfect inspiration book. Maybe, just maybe, you don't want to add anything to it at all. You want to enjoy the variety of papers and textures throughout the book. I totally understand that desire. It is part of what led me to making the books in the first place. It's okay to let it sit on your desk or table and just be, and enjoy it as one might enjoy a piece of art. There is no wrong way to use or not use this book, because a book, in any and every form, is a precious gift. And so, my friends, on book 2, I am putting out an open invitation to you to pass along anything you want. I'll have my address for sure in the description for this page, or for this video. It's got all kinds of cool things. So if you have or stumble across anything, it does not even have to be medieval themed. It could be if you want to send a letter, if you want to send a clipping out of a book that you think I would enjoy the clipping of, a picture. There's lots of little pictures that are throughout in here, little picture cards and stuff, bookmarks, whatever you would like to send, I will add to this journal, this junk journal, and let this grow. I love everything that's in here, and I want to see it grow. And the folks that I want to get some treasures from are all of you. So it does not have to be keeping with this medieval theme. So if something sparks your interest that you want to send along for it, whether it's in a week, a month, a year, whenever. This is the thing now when if I were doing the your answer can't be books tag, this would become my answer now on what's on my nightstand other than a book, because I would say that this is not the same kind of book that they were thinking of. This thing is a thing of beauty, and it's got all kinds of wonderful stuff in here, and every page is just a sheer delight for me to turn through, and I just want to see it grow and add more things into it. And I thought that all of you might want to take part and send a piece of something for you to put in here. So thank you for sticking around, those of you that stayed all the way to the end. I know that I can get a little rambly, so I'm going to just stop myself now before I go completely off the wall and go on for another 10 minutes. Have a great day.